All right. Hey, everybody. We're here now. For those of you who are out there on the streams and waiting for us, we had a couple of technical difficulties getting started, but we're live now. And so I want to give you a moment to join, and I want to welcome you to Product Coffee. This month, we have been focusing in on product strategy at Product Coffee. Would love to have you join us for those discussions over the next few weeks. But today, we are having a conversation with David Pereira, who is joining me here. And David has been in product management and innovation for quite a while and is currently CEO of, is it Omoko? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Correct, that's correct.
Excellent. And his prowess with product strategy is one of the things that helped get him there. David also has a Substack. If you're not subscribed to that, it's a great newsletter specifically focused on product management and product strategy and untrapping product teams. And he's got a book coming out. We're going to talk a little bit about that too. But we're just going to dive in right now, since we're getting started a little bit later than we intended to, and jump into some product strategy discussion. Before we do that, David, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more and tell everybody who doesn't know about you what you're up to right now?
Sure. So thanks for having me here. What I do generally is playing with products, helping people create better products. And I have been working with digital products for the last 15 years, different places. I started as a software engineer, and then I moved to product manager, head of products. And then I started writing about my stories, like what helped me, what I learned from my mistakes, and so on. And that's the Substack. You can find it. There are many of my articles on Medium as well, but then I migrated to Substack to get closer to my readers. And now I'm launching a book that took me quite a bit to write it, and soon it will come out.
Excellent. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I definitely want to talk about that as well this morning. We're going to tell people about your book and how they can get that. But let's get started by digging into some product strategy. And you talk to a lot of product people all over the world, and you write pretty prolifically. And I know you get a lot of questions and challenges that people send to you that you're trying to solve. And so one of the things that I'm really curious about, and I think just to kind of set the stage, we're not going to do a definition of product strategy here, I don't think. I think we're going to focus on really assuming that everybody out here kind of has a general idea of where they want to be from a product strategy standpoint. But I do want to start off with, some of the challenges that you've seen people encounter. David, what are some of the biggest challenges that product managers that you talk to seem to have with their approach to product strategy?
So there are multiple challenges, but one of the common one is the lack of a strategy or a too broad strategy. Because sometimes there's this kind of thing of searching for the right strategy. What is the thing that is one size fits all? And strategy is nothing like one size fits all. We said that we're not going to go in a definition of strategy, but
go ahead if you need to.
Strategy works well, it means it simplifies decision making. And I see that some strategy, actually, they don't contribute to simplify decision making. They make it more complicated. For example, you need to decide where to juggle. Maybe you have multiple priorities. We need to grow while addressing retention, while addressing a new audience or something like that. This is not a clear strategy. This is trying multiple things at the same time. So this makes the lives of product managers, product teams more complicated because they don't know what success looks like. So if they don't know what success looks like, they will need to talk to a lot of people. Then the result is, instead of doing the work, they will end up talking more about the work instead of doing it. So this is one of the biggest challenges I have seen.
So, too broad or insufficient. I like the examples. A lot of what you gave there as an example, really kind of some of the things they're chasing sound a lot more like business objectives than a product strategy. And that sounds like where some of the mess might be as well.
Yeah.
So when they run into those challenges, what's the impact of that? How does that tend to affect both the product, the company, and their careers?
So the impact will be everyone complaining that the team's not delivering fast enough. So there's a general dissatisfaction, and teams struggle to know where they want to go. So they will say there's a lack of strategy, there's a lack of clarity. And some teams will name like, our strategy is changing all the time, because maybe it's too broad or too abstract and they don't know what it looks like. Maybe from a management perspective, it is not changing all the time. It is not understood what they meant because it's too broad. The ultimate impact will be not fun for anyone. They will feel trapped in kind of analysis paralysis. You need to decide, oh, do I go here? Do I go there? Oh, what makes sense? If I go here, what is going to happen? Oh, but what about the other? There's someone pressuring us to also address this one. How do we do this? And there's a big chance that the teams will divide and conquer and try to do everything at the same time.
So yeah, that rings true to me from so many people that I've spoken to over the years, and I hear all the time about companies who are saying, our teams just can't deliver fast enough. We're not delivering value to the market nearly fast enough. And I hear a lot of conversations about how product managers struggle with their engineering teams to really kind of communicate the priorities and keep things moving at a good pace. And so often it gets chalked up to bad communications in the organization or personality conflicts. But what I hear you saying is really very often the problem is more just a lack of a clear strategy that everybody can understand and get behind.
Yes, because a good strategy will empower the team to say no to what distracts them. And the problem is most teams, they lack this anchor that helps them prioritize. So then they juggle. And if you're juggling, of course, you're going to drop some balls.
Mm-hmm. So I want to tell everybody who's out there watching us, and good Lord, we got a lot of people out there watching. First of all, whether you're on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever you're watching us, drop in a hello, tell us who you are and where you're watching from. And this is a live Q&A. A lot of you, I know a lot of you out there watching are readers of Dave's newsletter, and you're looking forward to his book. But if you've got questions you'd like us to address, drop them in the chat right here, and we will try to get to as many as we can over the next few minutes as well. And we do have quite a few chats coming in here. Let's see, we got a lot of comments coming from both channels. We got Mirana from Belgrade, excellent, welcome. We've got Holly from Atlanta, hello. And we got Amsterdam and San Francisco Bay. Great. We got a lot of people chiming in here. So glad to have everybody joining us. So feel free to drop your questions in here as well. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. In the meantime, let's when we talk about those challenges and the cost of those challenges, let's talk about fixing them now a little bit, especially kind of what should product managers really focus on if they recognize that they're in an environment where their product strategy isn't really clear, isn't clearly articulated, or it's overly broad. What do you recommend that people focus on to start taking a leadership voice in correcting that problem?
Sure. So of course it depends on the influence you have. If you are a product leader, I would say sit down, align on priorities, and define what the priority is. And see that I'm saying what the priority is, not what the priorities are, because it's singular. Because failing to prioritize, it's the same as leading the team into confusion. So what is the thing we must achieve right now? If you're a leader, you can do that easier. But if you're a product manager, you need to talk to people. One of the things that I learned, it is about collaboration. So you can do that in two ways, I would say. There are more, but two that worked for me. One is probably you have too many requests at the same time, and everything seems to be important. And the classic way is you talk to your business stakeholders on a one-to-one. So you go, you talk to finance, you talk to operations, you talk to the others. Everyone will tell you what they have is ultimately important. And if you don't do, the business is gonna die, and everyone will have to look for another job. So what you can do instead is you share your observations. You can say, this is what I learned that is not working. This is what I learned that we need to go. You get everyone in the same room and say, you are asking me to do this. You are asking me to do that. if I try to do everything, everyone here will be pissed off because I'm not going to deliver on that. What is the one thing we can focus right now that will help us progress? And then you focus on this one thing, and you need to build alignment with your stakeholders. Because a lot of people say about stakeholder management, it is more about alignment. It's not about managing it. You need to build alignment so they support you in one direction that you can create this. So this is one way of helping the others face your problem. Because as a product manager, you have loads of requests, and that is your problem. But you need to help the business see that. So this is one strategy that helps us get alignment and focus on one thing. And you see, I'm not saying like create a canvas, create this or that. If you lack product strategy, start finding this goal. And then from there, you can look at your backlog and can remove everything that distracts you from that goal. And you can focus on this and so on. But if you don't have a solid goal, it will be very hard. Another strategy you can bring to the game is helping the others see what you're seeing. What is the lack of strategy? We started talking about it here. The lack of strategy probably is you created a lot of features that nobody uses. Nobody benefit from that. You didn't collect business value and users couldn't collect value. So what about creating a report that you show the features created over the last 12 months? And then you compare how often they are used. And you shouldn't be surprised if these features are not used at all. And then you can have a conversation with your stakeholders saying, hey, look what's happening. Everything that we created over the last 12 months, at least 50% went to the trash. The only thing is we don't know which 50% it is. And then you have a conversation and you ask, is that the way we should continue working? Throwing half of our work into the trash? There's a big chance that's going to happen. And then you can say, like, what if we try something different? Let's focus on delivering value and measure the results. So these are two things you can bring to the game to start changing. Of course, it depends on your situation, but it's about bringing different ingredients so you can focus in one direction.
So yeah, getting into that pure, clear focus and making sure that you're aligning everything that you're doing, every investment that you're making to the single most important thing that you can do to move the product forward.
Yeah.
So I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Mirana. Is that correct? Asked the question out there on the on LinkedIn. Asked, this is a fundamental question. Who's responsible for creating product strategy? In your case, you're the CEO and a product guy, so I'm guessing you've got a pretty strong hand. But think about the other organizations you've worked in as well.
Should be the product leader or someone with an equivalent role. It will be someone from the leadership, depending on the size of the company, on where you are working the product and influence. It's very unlikely to be the product manager creating the strategy. You'll be more influencing the strategy based on what you learned. For sure you can influence, but it's unlikely you drive that. In one of the places I worked, there was a very interesting conversation that happened. The CEO presented a strategy. And as I started in this conversation, the strategy was very blurry. The strategy had why we should grow in that direction and everything that the CEO wanted to see. There were 15 items on the roadmap. Yes, 15 items on the roadmap. And many things that we couldn't understand why. Like, for example, we need to refactor the checkout. We need to create a new product detail page. We need to improve our search. We need to do this and product recommendations and so on and so on. But then one product manager asked one question. We're talking about many things here, but no one is addressing the elephant in the room. And then the CEO was very shocked, said, what is the elephant in the room? The product manager said, the elephant in the room is very simple. Every customer that we acquire, we bleed because the customer acquisition cost is higher than the customer lifetime value. When are you going to talk about it? And that changed everything. The CEO said, well, well, we know that, but we are scaling up now. We're not trying to be profitable. We're trying to bring more customers. And then the product manager said, yes, if they would only stay, because now we acquire and they leave us. So we need either to focus on retention or to deliver more value. We need to do something, and it's not about refactoring, checkout, and so on. So within that, we could change our scenario. So we could have a different conversation on something that mattered. So the product manager didn't craft the strategy, but created an impulse that led to a conversation. The CEO stepped back, and then we could come up with a better strategy. That is an example.
So that's really the nature of taking leadership in the conversation and creating the value that you need to create as an individual contributor to be trusted by your leadership and craft that strategy without as much micromanagement, so that you can really deliver a vision and work with it. That sound about right, David?
Yeah, correct. That's totally correct.
So we got time for maybe one more question, and I want to ask you this one, and then I want to shift into a couple of things that are coming up that people are probably going to want to know about. But we had a question from somebody out on LinkedIn for an example of one of the best articulations of a product strategy that you've personally seen, and can you talk about what made it good?
Sure. So product strategy is not something you would have one size fits all. That's the first of all. So I cannot give you the framework that is going to ensure you succeed. There are some elements that you need to have that will increase the odds of having the clear direction. Some people would say that the product vision is out of the strategy. I wouldn't go in this theoretical discussion. You need to have a product vision. Where do you want to land? The product vision is something that maybe it's achievable in 5 to 10 years, something distant. It inspires you, but that is not enough to work. The other aspect is once you know your product vision, you recognize your status. Where are you in your product? What am I talking about here? Which audience are you targeting? Are you targeting an early adopter audience? This is a game to play, a different one. Early adopters, they are open to have some friction, your product doesn't need to be perfect. But if you're trying to scale up and you have already exhausted the early majority, meaning that you just need the referrals for early adopters, from early adopters, because they will start using the product, and you're going to the late majority, the game is different, because for this type of people, convenience is the most important. So you need to understand the product stage you are in. So who are you serving at this moment, and which strategy is important for you? Is it growth, retention, the direction you're going? What are you trying to do right now? And your product stage. Are you, for example, in maturity level, meaning that you have everything stable? In this case, your strategy should be how can you leverage your audience to acquire more value from them and give more value. But if you are in a growth stage, it's a different strategy. So you need to position your product and so on. And once you position on this, your strategy should help you understand how you deliver value to your customers. Which problems do they have and how you solve that? But not only this question, how do you solve that different than the available options? It's highly important to understand your value curve in comparison to your competitors. So these are the core elements for me of product strategy. And from there, you can break it down to your milestones. And you can use different ways. You can use outcome-oriented roadmaps. You can use objective and key results. So you have a short-term commitment. So you can see if your strategy is working well, if you're progressing towards your vision.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing very important, strategy evolves. It's not something set in stone. A strategy that helped you break into the market is not going to help you grow. It is a different strategy. You need to adapt. And what helped you grow maybe, for example, tenfold is not going to help you grow the next tenfold. So it's something evolving according to your scenario.
Very good. So that's a really good overview, and I think that leads leads into a couple of things that I'd really like us to cover off on. So you're talking about the key components of a product strategy, and a lot of early to mid-career product managers who are kind of eyeing that leadership level and wanting to move forward and create greater influence are really digging in and trying to discover how to all the pieces that need to go into crafting a great product strategy. I know you've got an online course on product strategy that's really popular that you have available, and we're doing a workshop in a couple of weeks as well, where you're going to dig in on some of those core elements really and do a live workshop on crafting a product strategy. And I'd like to talk about that just a little bit and let you tell everybody a little bit about what we're doing on April 26th with the Product Coffee workshop, Crafting a Strategy That Works.
Sure. So what we're going to do is to explore different types of strategies from different companies, what worked for them, and why it worked, and how can you set strategy. We will also explore strategies that didn't work and what led to that, and what happens if you don't adapt your strategy timely. We will discuss common traps with strategy, because there are many common traps that teams will face that if they are unaware of, and maybe they are already facing being unaware, and how you can overcome that. Then we'll have some hands-on exercise where everyone can craft a strategy, and then we can exchange with each other, provide feedback, and say, hey, look at here, and so on and so on. On top of that, you're going to get some material that help you craft your strategy, some templates that help you accelerate the right conversation. I'm not going to give you a template and say, just fill out and you have strategy. That's not how it works. You use a template to bring the right conversations and start creating strategy that will help you deliver value faster. So it will be a very hands-on session with some lectures, some examples, real-life examples. And of course, we will share some failures, something that I did wrong because I didn't do everything right. What I will be sharing with you is what worked and some of my painful failures and why that happened. So you don't have to take the blows I had in my career. So you can do it differently. So that's what we are going to explore during our event.
Excellent. Yeah, it's going to be a great workshop. I'm really excited about it. You've kind of shared with us the agenda and what that's going to look like. And so what we're doing for that is that workshop is it's free for Product Coffee Premium members, and we've got a big community of product professionals who are helping each other level up their careers. But it's also open to the public. And if you want to join that workshop, it's $199, but we've got the early bird pricing going through midnight tonight. So after today, that price is going to go to the regular $199. If you want to jump in on it right now, you can register for $149 today, $50 off. But you'll be able to register right up until the very last minute for the workshop on April 26th. It's 2 hours from noon Eastern till from 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern on April 26th. So would love to have you join us for that. But the other thing I want to talk about is not just the workshop, but the book that you've got coming out. You've got a new book that is shipping June 7th. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So and it's called Untrapping Product Teams. Tell me about that. Tell me what you're doing with the book.
Sure. So the reason I decided to write this book is because for 15 years working in product, I realized that many times we start doing other things than creating digital products. We are trapped and trying to figure out how to do something that matters. For example, output-oriented roadmaps, blocking us, extensive product backlogs, pleasing multiple stakeholders, and having opinion-driven decision. How can we break free from that? In the beginning of my career, honestly, I thought I was just stupid. I may still be, but what I realized that the same traps I had in Brazil and my small hometown, I saw in São Paulo, a bigger place in Brazil. Then I moved to Germany. I started seeing the same. Then I started consulting other companies. And I saw all over the place the same patterns. This book is not about telling you what you should be doing. This book is about helping you understand what you should not be doing and how you can overcome that. It's divided into three parts. The first is recognizing dangerous traps. So no matter where you work, there might be something that gets in the way of driving value. The book helps you recognize that and equips you to overcome that. The second part is all about overcoming dangerous traps. I will go from product strategy to measuring results, delivering high level collaboration with stakeholders and communication. And then the last part will be how do you remain untrapped? Because if you just sit down and relax, I can tell you the traps will just come back and then you will start falling to them. How do you bring the elements that will help you remain on top of the game, like creating your product principles, following them, having health checks every quarter or things like that to understand your scenario if you're derailing or not, because business is dynamic and creating products is complex. One of the core parts of the book is about bringing simplicity, because no matter where you work, you will be faced with loads of complexity and people will try to make even more complexity. What I encourage you to do is actually to simplify. That's what the book is all about, helping you simplify what gets unintended complicated.
Very good. So, and the book itself has already got just a ton of great feedback coming into it. I saw Mike Cohn, who's one of my early influences when I was starting my product management career, has got some great things to say about it. I learned user stories. I learned how to work with agile teams from Mike Cohn. And of course, Marty Kagan is talking about how this book is really going to help product people avoid a lot of the pitfalls that they run into in product strategy. So it's a really exciting read that's coming forward for that as well. So you can pre-order that on Amazon. I think the price on Amazon is probably, they've got this pricing guarantee. So they're like, even if you're looking at the price today, if it goes down between now and publication date, you'll get the lower price. That's pretty cool. I hadn't seen that before. But I also want to shift back over here. We had a few more questions coming into the chat. And I wanted to drop into that a little bit here and see if we can answer one or two more questions before we go. Just a question you answered a moment ago, more of a personal question, David, is Mirana is asking how long you've been in product management. How long have you been working with product management, product development?
15 years now.
Been at it for a good bit. That's a full career. You're almost ready to retire.
Yeah, well, it's still learning. It's funny because talking about product management, I always look back to myself. One of the things about the book, I imagine talking to myself earlier in my career, because when I look back, I say, oh, there's things I did completely wrong. And I'm so happy about it because I changed my perspective. And if I look in the future, probably will say that what I'm doing now, maybe 70% remain, 30% change and things like that and so on. So I remember when I started, I used to say that the product manager was the bridge between business and tech. And I was so proud saying that. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm limiting software engineers. I'm limiting designers by telling them what they should be doing instead of collaborating. Then I changed the perspective. Said, I am an orchestra conductor. I'm just there helping them play the music. And I'm sure the music is beautiful. It's in sync. It's in a beautiful tune. But then I realized I positioned myself higher than the team. So I was not playing any instrument, but I was saying I'm in a higher position, which I didn't mean to. So I changed again. Said, you know what? I'm like a jazz player. I just go there, start the music, and together we play something that none of us would be able to play it alone. It's a team game. So that's my current vision. So that's what I have learned, for example, in perception of product people throughout this 15 years.
That's great. I love all the music analogies that I've heard over the years about product management and the product manager being the conductor or who's playing what instrument. But I love the jazz analogy and especially the way you said it, because we've made something beautiful together that none of us could have made on our own. I love that analogy. Thanks for sharing it.
Come.
Yeah. And let's see if we got one more. One of the questions that we had was really kind of more about the big picture of product management as a whole. And I think this is actually a good one for you to weigh in on, if you don't mind. Um, uh, Kilishvar, looks like I got that right. I hope so. It is asking, is product management, is it all about creating a new product, or can you implement these product management practices in your book for bringing, and you're talking about digital products, for bringing SaaS into an existing ecosystem?
Sure. So this is a complicated question. And I would say if you ask 10 people, you probably get 10 different answers. And even if you try inside the same company, 10 people, you will again get 10 different answers. So I'm going to give you my version, what I have been trying to craft. For me, product management, it is about uncovering what drives value for customers and the business, and delivering something that will delight all of them, and we can collect value. So you uncover that and you deliver. So yes, it can apply to what you mentioned. So how can you transform that into business? What makes product management so complex is because you need to understand customers, the market, and the business side of all of it, and how do you connect the dots while delivering. And one of the aspects that leads to failure is treating product management as classic project management. We assume we know everything from the beginning, and then we derail into delivering things. So we create plan to deliver. But let me tell you one thing, 9 out of 10 ideas will fail. Instead of asking the question, how can we accelerate delivery? The best question to ask is, how can we drop bad ideas fast enough? So product management helps you do that when you apply sound practice. And this is what the book helps you with.
Fantastic. That's going to be a great read. I can't wait to get my hands on it. So thanks so much for kind of giving us a preview of that, and for the workshop that you're holding on the 26th. One last question. I know we've got to go here. One last question that came in that I thought was really valuable was how often, or how do you know when it's time to update and change your strategy?
That's a very good question. So I'm going to elaborate on that. Just a side note, thanks, Peter, for ordering the book. I hope you enjoy. And once you read it, drop me a message. I'm very reachable. I love exchanging with people who want to change the game. Coming back to your question. To change your strategy, you need to be paying attention on your scenario. What is happening? So let's say your demand skyrocketed. So that's a sign you need to change your strategy. Let's say your demand dropped. It's another sign. Let's say another competitor is threatening you. Do you want to keep with the same strategy? The competition landscape changed. Or you have a potential of a new audience. So what are you going to do? So these are elements that suggest you need to change your strategy. So look at your scenario, because when you craft your strategy, there are some elements, the customer you are serving, your competition, and the opportunities you have. Did any of that change? If it changed, review your strategy. Another sign also is measuring the efficacy of your strategy. Are you still delivering value on that? Are you still collecting value? Because if you measure that, you are going to learn that maybe your strategy is not working. Then you need to adapt that. So it is about acting according to what you learn. Sometimes your audience, sometimes about the efficacy of your strategies. So these are some elements I would name.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. So I wanted to make sure I threw that QR code up there one more time for everybody to grab a copy of your book if they haven't already pre-ordered it. We would, I know it's going to be a great read. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing you also on the 26th for our workshop at Product Coffee as well on crafting a strategy that works. And that's going to be a really high-paced deep dive into actually building out your product strategy with some tools that'll help you go back to the office and get the work done. But you're not walking away empty-handed with a blank toolkit. You're walking away with a process and a framework that you've had some practice with, right, David?
Yes. And with feedback, we are going to try out things, give feedback to each other, and so on.
Excellent. It's going to be a great day. I know we pushed a little bit later than we had intended to go today. We had some technical difficulties getting started. Thank you for being willing to stay over. And for those of you who are just becoming aware of Product Coffee today, would love to have you join us. Most weeks we do a free weekly meetup, virtual meetup with product professionals from around the world, helping each other solve their problems and get better at product management, product strategy, so they can really excel in this career. Would love to have you join us. Head over to productcoffee.com and you can check out our events page and see all the things that we have coming up over the next few weeks. And thanks again, David. We will see you on the 26th, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Great weekend,
everybody. Bye, everybody. Have a great